So, good evening, everyone, to this regular public meeting of the City of Dieppe, this October 9th. And once again, welcome to all, and we're going to go with our announcement, or dear colleagues, may we have the serenity to accept the things that we cannot change, the courage to change the things that we can change, and the wisdom to know the difference. So now it's the call to order. We have quorum. We continue with the declarations of conflicts of interest. If there are any, there are none. So we go to the adoption of the agenda, moved by Councillor Blanc, seconded by Councillor Godet. Question on the agenda? No questions? So all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Agenda is adopted as presented. We have quite a few presentations this evening. It's starting to feel like budget time, among other things. And the item 7.1, inquiries by council members to the Kodiak Regional RCMP and our representative of RCMP tonight, the staff sergeant Mario Fortin, who is with us. I don't know if anyone has any questions or comments for our RCMP representative tonight. Monsieur Brideau. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Fortin, I'd like to know if would be possible to get a report on the tickets that are given in the city of Dieppe related to speed, because we receive a lot of complaints on speed in the streets. So I'd like to know now, how many tickets have we given out? I can't tell you that right now, but we can get you the statistics if you want. Yes, please. Per municipality, we have those statistics. So how far back do you want us to go? Just the city of Dieppe. Yeah, I understand, but last 3 months, 5 months, 6 months? I could give you the year up to now, 2018. Yeah, okay, that would be good. Thank you. I can get that to you at the next meeting. Or maybe they'll send them to you before that. Yeah, if they could send them to us before that, so we can send it to our CEO by interim, and we'll make sure that all members of council get a copy. Okay, yeah, I'll make a note of it and then mention it when I get back to the office for the year 2018 up to now. The reason I'm asking the question is that we receive complaints from our residents, and we mention it even to the superintendent, but it doesn't seem to change anything. People are going to ask me, for example, where are the police officers? How come we don't see them in Dieppe? Or maybe why aren't they patrolling the streets? So at least we'll be able to give a report to our residents. I can tell you that we are here. It's sure that obviously if we're not seen, it's not that we're not here. But I'll get you the statistics for the next meeting. Okay, thank you. I can do a little bit of a follow-up, maybe ask a question concerning something that had been asked of the superintendent during the meetings. We have come to the region at least 6 times. It's been asked, Charlesville, Bonaventure, Pascal Street, so in that area. On the speeds, also on Thomas Street, complaints for noise, for modified engines or motorcycles. And in other words, as Benoni Lane something was not respected. So for us, we've been there at least 6 times. We gave tickets out. We gave warnings. But what is good for us, that helps us, is to know the hours, because when we talk about noisy vehicles, I mean, when we receive the complaints second hand, it's difficult for us to have an idea of what we're talking about. We'd like to have the name of the person that's complaining. Are there specific hours? The more details that we have, the easier it is for us to react to the problem. I mean, when they come in bulk, it's kind of difficult for us to see what we can do about it. Maybe we could park somewhere, maybe have radars, because the radars, when we're there, for example, in the Bonaventure-Pascal area, the speed was 59 kilometers, 9 kilometers above the limit. And the other corner, on Pascal, it was up to 61 kilometers an hour. So our volunteers are going to be there to give us a better idea of what goes on. So if we could have the complaints directly from the public, it would be easier for us. We'd be able to respond better. Thank you. Any other questions from members of council? No? Okay. Thank you. I invite you to stay because I know that they're on presentations on the same topic by the public. So yeah, I'm here for the whole evening. I usually tell the superintendent, I know that you're busy. I mean, we'd be happy to have you stay with us, but you can leave if you want. No, I'll be staying for the whole evening. So now we go to the next item, presentation from the Friends of Moncton Hospital Foundation with Dr. Serge Melançon and Madame Monica Barley. Good evening. We're really happy to be here with you and to talk to you about our the care for patients here in Moncton, in Dieppe, and the southeast area of New-Brunswick at the Moncton Hospital. Like you've heard, I'm Serge Melançon. I'm in emergency. Up to now as Chief of Staff, Medical Staff, but right now I have a new role as the President of the Medical Society of New-Brunswick it's been a couple of weeks. But I'm here tonight as co-chair with Ms. Monica Barley of the Donation Committee for Extraordinary Care that's directed by Mr. Robert Irving. We're very happy to give you some interesting details on the way we are working on our campaign that will be officially launched on the 8th of November. To help the Moncton Hospital to evolve and to improve, to offer better health care for citizens of Dieppe, of Moncton, and the southeast area of New Brunswick. Our vision, basically to have obtained $8 million to set up 2 excellent centers of excellency at the hospital. In other words, basically maternity and neonatal care. And secondly, the coronary care center. You'll remember that the Premier Galland invested mentioned a major investment for 2 projects in 2017. Thanks to the foundation and the people in our community, we can contribute to make this initiative something that's going to happen. As you know, technology and medical treatment have made considerable progress since the 1950s when the hospital was built, and it continues to evolve today. It's therefore so much more important than ever that the hospital evolved in order to take advantage of all the possibilities to improve coronary care and the health of women and children. Great number of obstetricians, neonatologists, and physicians worked in the Moncton Hospital, but in certain sectors and do not correspond to the quality that's necessary for our physicians. Medical care in the 20th century should happen in an environment that is of the 21st century, so that the medical care is of the 21st century for our patients. Our vision for the future of a hospital involves technical specificities that will be good for optimal care that are centered on family, top-notch technology that are for the safety of patients, for the safety of the public, of family life, and for the safety of medical staff that can give care to residents, of which everybody will be proud. And do that, we'll be replacing 2 units that are very important for the Moncton Hospital by new areas that will help families, sick babies, and people who have coronary complications. The campaign will involve much more than the building of 2 new wings in the hospital. New places will have the potential to save lives and to improve the health of many generations to come. It will also give the possibility of have better recruitment to attract more physicians and health professionals. The most competent also, this project, which is an exceptional project, will illustrate the generosity and the compassion of the residents of Dieppe and show to the rest of the country our determination to take care of the most vulnerable. Planning, conception, design, and the building of these new units of coronary care and maternity and neonatal units, thanks to partnerships, represents once again an opportunity for healthcare in Dieppe, in Moncton, and the whole of eastern part of New Brunswick. Thanks to this campaign of care, we will have a better experience in the hospital for patients, but especially we will give priority to lives that can be touched, inspired, and saved. I can assure you that the cardiologists in the hospital really want to start work in this new cardiology center. Let me now explain to you through images why this project is so important. The present unit was built in 1952, approximately 70 years ago. It's one of the oldest sections of the Moncton Hospital. There are problems that will be solved with the new unit. Right now, the patient rooms in the coronary, intensive coronary and intermediate coronary, the rooms are very small. In case of emergency, there's not enough room for staff to bring all the necessary equipment to give care to the patients without having to move obstacles. So a lot of time is lost. I'm happy to say that all rooms in the 2 units will be bigger individual rooms. These improved places will give a better and more comfortable, intimate area for their patients and their family. Right now, most of the rooms outside of the intensive care units have 2 beds separated by a curtain. Confidentiality of the patients are very important for care. To protect the medical information is not only a question of moral respect, but it's essential also to respect the trust, the links of trust between physicians and patients. It's essential now for the treatment of sick patients. Without respect of their private life, they can divulge some things about themselves and family, or they won't say anything because they don't want these things to be known. And this is not good for their reputation, their employment, or their personal. Above the confidentiality problems, these places offer little comfort for examinations, for example, without mentioning that there's very little room to welcome the family members. Toilets are not enough for staff. As a matter of fact, there's just 1 toilet for all patients in coronary centers. The ventilation system in general is old and does not work properly, which means that it's very difficult to have a comfortable temperature for patients, and it's difficult to create an environment that will fight infections. the 2 new units in a bigger center that'll be integrated. That means that the care centers will be more modern, will be more light, they'll be more spacious and better. Because the units will be close by, the medical staff will be able to give better care to the patients. Our vision for this new building is to offer a whole slew of treatments, diagnostics, and treatment for coronary care for patients that are hospitalized in one center of care centered on the patient, and it'll be more efficient for the staff. The replacement of these units is of a capital importance. It will give us the opportunity to give care of the 21st century to the patients in the Moncton Hospital. Now for our second project, we want to give care to the mothers and to the newborns in a more family environment by making the workplace much bigger, intensive neonatal care, and also what we want to do is to make sure that this unit is going to be a place where families will feel comfortable and safe, an intimate place with a warm atmosphere. We want this to be something that is going to be good for all our parents. These 3 units will be in a new building built between the Professional Arts on Barden and the main entrance on Macbeth, where there's a parking lot. These new places will have more modern rooms, each with their own toilet for all the steps of giving birth. That should mean that the results for the mother will be better. It will reduce the time of hospitalization, and it will prevent infections, and it will be better for the patient and for the staff. In the intensive neonatal unit, it'll be centered on an individual room, so the parents will be able to participate actively with the team. There'll be respect of the intimacy and confidentiality of the patients and their families. Another initiative will give the opportunity to reduce the noise in the unit. It's something that is done in intensive neonatal care units. This unit at the Moncton Hospital will give tertiary care complete, which is highly specialized, which means that the newborns, premature newborns, who are medically unstable or very sick from the whole area of the southeast of the province will be transferred here to receive treatment. It means also that the maternal fetal units, there will be a comfortable area, a modern area for women who have a risky pregnancy. These will be close to the other units. That means that there will be continuity of extraordinary care that the families deserve. We can say, without hesitation, that many citizens of Dieppe have already been privileged to use the care at the Moncton Hospital, and they'll continue to benefit from this care. This campaign is one of the most ambitious campaigns in the history of New Brunswick. The city of Dieppe has supported us in the past when it invested $50,000 in our campaign capitalization in 2005, which is called Health, Our Richness. The consequences of this will mean that it will be great things for our most vulnerable patients. Our request to Municipal Council of Dieppe is to get a promise of a donation of $100,000 over a period of 5 years. Together, we will be able to respect our promise of extraordinary care for you, your family, and all the citizens of Dieppe for generations to come. If you have any questions concerning our presentation, we'd be very happy to answer them. Thank you. Thank you very much, Madame Barley, Mr. Melançon, Dr. Melançon. I can see that the lights are starting to blink on my screen. Councillor Alain. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. First of all, congratulations, Dr. Melançon, on your election to the Medical Society. And Monica, it's always a great person for the community, so thank you very much for this great presentation. 2 or 3 things. So the project globally, what's the figure it's going to be? No, that's number 1. And number 2, Monica, you talk about the evolution. The city of Dieppe wants, for sure, to help the community to evolve and be part of this type of project. So do you figure that other cities, what your presentation deadline, January 2019, and on the parking, there's never enough parking. It's just a comment. So aside from that, thank you very much. Parking for physicians is going to be a hit. What I can understand is the authority have actual plans, present plans to accommodate the physicians with the establishment of the building. With other communities, if I understand properly, I think Moncton received a presentation earlier today, and if I understand, Madame Saunders from the sort of Friends of the Foundation, their presentations to other communities in the area who are going to be benefiting from the services. It was mentioned also that even if the services were established at the Hospital of Moncton, it's clear that the citizens of the whole east area of the province are going to be benefited from Moncton, Peninsula, and around here. Concerning the price, what I understand, I think the government is in negotiations with a figure of $60 billion with their contribution. And I believe, if I understand properly, the foundation is aiming for $8 million. Thank you. Any other questions? No? I guess that means that all the answers were given, if there are no questions. So thank you very much for your presentation. Thanks, first of all, for having accepted today's date. I know it wasn't easy for everybody, but I think it was very important for Municipal Council to receive your presentations right now at this time of the year, because we're in the budgetary process. So thank you very much for having accommodated us. And you'll get an answer when we finished with our budget predictions. Thank you very much. Next presentation on participatory budget. So it's Mademoiselle Judith Bourque and Dr. Christine Paulin to talk to us about P2. Public participation in our participatory budget and where we're at in this continuum of development and public participation. And hey, tonight we have a great public participation. We can't say the contrary, right? But it's not necessarily related to your subject. Okay, thank you very much for hosting us or welcoming us, and it's really pleasant to be able to talk about our subject tonight. First of all, I'm Judith Bourque. I was been involved for a couple of years in participatory budget, and I was a coordinator during this summer. And I'm Madame Christine Paulin. Well, I'm not accustomed to speaking at a mic. I'm a teacher at the University of Moncton, and I'm right now involved in the evaluation phase of participatory budgets, cycle 2. I did the same thing for cycle 1, so I'll be able to compare cycle 1 and cycle 2 today. Basically, Judith will be talking to you to tell you about the micro-evaluation. It's basically the evaluation of the tool of the participatory budget that you all know. I'll be coming back in January for a presentation a little more on the macro. So the instrument, the budget, but P2, the public participation. January, I'll give you a little bit higher point of view on the public participation. So now Judith has the floor. Okay, just to remind people, it's really an opportunity for residents to submit their own ideas, their own community projects. And the idea, like Christine mentioned, it is to basically get the participation of the public. So today we'll be talking about following the interim evaluation. We'll be talking about the evaluation, and we're talking about recommendations and possible things to do.
As it was mentioned, this is the second cycle of the budget. The first one was in 2015, and as Christine mentioned, after the first cycle, we had an evolution. So I'll talk about the strong points and what was improved. Following that report, we had recommendations. The actors, people involved, formulated their recommendations according to their own experience. And what was a good learning tool in 2018, we put all these recommendations into action. One example, as we had mentioned in 2015, we had allowed the youth to participate and to vote. So we thought, how could we involve seniors as well with this vote? So in 2018, we were proactive. We went into seniors' homes or to municipal elections or the partial election. And people that were there, they participated in our budget by voting. And the municipal elections, we had older people there voting, so we could always we went to join youth as well at Mathieu Martin and Community College as well during lunch hours. So all these recommendations from the first cycle allowed to adapt this budget in the context of Dieppe. So we had a foundation that was given to us by the organization, the participatory budget project, and we adopted it to the context of Dieppe. So our second cycle is unique, and it also allowed a lot of innovations that we'll mention later. One of the recommendations from the first cycle was we wanted to see different categories of projects. It allowed diversity in winning projects, and those categories were active, creative, and connected. So we had a diversity of projects. And when you look at the figures in different ways, you notice that there's a space between financing of each category. So the amount for the creative category was $3,000, but the total amount for connected was $90,000. So there's a gap there with each category. It's something to think about to see how we can best meet those needs. Next, another unique part of this was the platform activist. It was for the budget developed by a team from Stanford University. And it was given to us freely for the participants, and it has a lot of advantages that allowed collaboration. So if a person came to work on one idea, that person could work on documents outside the meeting as well. Christine and I, for instance, we worked on the same idea, so we could exchange our ideas on the same platform, and staff could do the follow-up of all these different elements. And the management of documents and essential information. We didn't have exchange of email. So what was good, so when we evaluated the project, it was the committee of residents that did it, or by the internal committee of staff who evaluated the technical side of the projects that were proposed. We also had promotional initiatives by residents. These efforts that were made by the municipality were accompanied by the residents as well, who took in hand these initiatives. The Facebook page, for instance, that's entitled PP Dieppe, it was created by volunteers. And then we had weekly meetings at Quai FM. We had people on the teams, people that had participated former years as well. And then there was an increase of collaboration of staff and residents. There was a lot of cooperation that was direct between these two on the participatory budget, and staff could respond directly to the concerns of the residents. And that was very advantageous as well. There was a lot more contact between these two parties, so residents could see a more human side of the city and see what happens behind closed doors. And it also helped to improve the decision-making. The citizens, when they ask questions, they don't always know what's going on behind closed doors. So when they asked these questions, they had a fresh perspective of what the staff does day to day and how it affects the residents on these initiatives that are undertaken. I'm looking for my spot in my document. So now, when I did the internal report for the budget, we talk a lot about numbers, and it's hard for people to visualize it. So my report puts things into perspective. As you know, in 2015, we started comparisons with 2017. We started with $300,000, and we had introduction of categories of projects, and so there was a cap. And you can see that we increased the ideas that were submitted. And we have more figures. We had 3 weeks of voting that increased to 7 weeks. So we met more people, and we met more. We went into different sectors of the community, and it has helped us with certain recommendations that would put forward. So we had 4 ideas financed at the beginning, then 6, and the vote went from 1,400 to 2,100. And what we found interesting was that the percentage of online vote diminished from 47% to 18%. So that is by half, and even the figures, the numbers of people, it diminished. It was the same system. The same codes were used, but we had fewer votes that came in that way. So we thought about that. We don't have an answer yet. We had a theory. The possible explanation was that the work was very proactive, and we really went out to people within the community in public places, the arts center, the aquatic center. And we went to private businesses as well to ask them questions, and we asked them if we could stand before the front door to ask people questions. Sometimes we went to Sunday morning at the grocery store, so we met a lot of people that way. And then they said, yes, I saw that on the web, but I didn't have the chance to vote at home. So they take advantage of it face to face. So the online vote, because of that, diminished. When we started the online voting, we had two options: directly, where we asked for a specific code, as well as a sample ballot. So that's an example. And when we talked to people, some said, yes, I already voted online. And for curiosity's sake, what else would they have to say? I asked, what code did you use? PP or another code, other options we had. And they said, no, I didn't need a code. So it was a bit confusing. So we removed that option. And we had that, I don't know how long that ballot was there, but we went backwards to avoid that this mistake would be made again. But with the participation rates, this with the total population of Dieppe, 5% of voters of the whole population, and we went to 8.23% for the second cycle. I asked myself the question when I saw these figures, 8.23%, what do you compare that with? With the vote of the municipal elections, or what else? I checked with a research association that compiles data for all of North America, all participatory budgets, and I asked them, what are the data that you have with respect to percentage rates of participation? Then they said in 2017, the highest that they had compiled was 7.3%, and the lowest 0.5%. And the cycles there showed an interesting perspective. So it's contextualizing figures. 8.23% perhaps doesn't mean much when you compare it to 100%. In an ideal world, we would obtain this figure, but 8.23, it's pretty good when you compare it to all of North America. I'm confused with my pages here. So now the next slide shows comparison. So in the participatory budget, we chose the projects on the final vote, and we chose neutral citizens to ask them what project should be on the voting ballot. They organized in each category in order of preference for what is the most pertinent for Dieppe. And we added all this up, and we put them all in order, 1 to 16, and we looked at our votes. So which projects were winners? So to show you the comparison here, we noticed a contrast between both results. With the vote, the light yellow at right, on the right column, you can see the 4 winning projects. And what's highlighted on the other side those were the position in which they were situated on the other scales. So in the vote, the 4 winning projects were at position 2, 9, 10, and 13, according to the evaluation of citizens. So there's a bit of a gap here between the popular vote and the analysis, with all the details that were given. So how did we evaluate the 4 winning projects? That, according to the popular vote, they're at 1, 9, 10, or 2, 9, 10, and 16. So this is just food for thought. We don't have interpretation to give you on this, but we ask ourselves the question, is the popular vote reflecting an analysis which is centered and informed by citizens, or if the popular vote is that the best way to obtain results for the community? Did you have anything to add to this? I just wanted to say thank you to have invited us here tonight. It was wonderful sharing this with you. We'll have the evaluation report. It's being drafted now. We hope to have it published, and in January we'll have more information for you. Any questions by councillors? Councillor Leblanc. Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for your presentation. I have a question. Do you have the impression that the online vote or the manual vote has anything to do with the age of the person? Because the first time we went after youth in the schools, I think you probably did it the same way this time. Do we have any way to know what are the ages of the people that vote? That's a good question. With respect to ages, we have 2 ways we can look at that when we talk about the online vote. Usually, they're younger people usually, but it's not generalized. But with respect to ages, we went different ways. We would give a questionnaire, a demographic questionnaire to join the population, and we had the same questionnaire online, so that was one way we could evaluate who we joined in the population, but it's not representative of all our stands, because that was put aside a bit to get closer to people. So all this research showed that our population, adult and senior, was very well represented, and we checked with Statistics Canada as well. And in the category of my age, university students was underrepresented, about 24 years old. And with respect to the different techniques to evaluate the people that we spoke to, we had a compilation of a list of places where we went to get the vote. We identified the key population that we would speak to at that time. We went to schools. We went to Carrefour and Mathieu Martin and to the community college. And the questionnaires, the demographic formulaires that we were talking about, we didn't distribute it in the schools because we were going very quickly. There was no time to breathe. And to give you an idea, Mathieu Martin, in one lunch hour, in 60 minutes, we had more than 100 people vote. We explained what was going on. People voted, then they went to get their friends, because a lot of them came from Dieppe. We went into senior care homes, 5 different ones, And then with the by-elections, it was a big voting day for us because it's an important part of our seniors that vote and middle-aged adults as well. So we were proactive and we were conscious to go after that. When I saw the report, I thought that was it, but I know the first wave of the participatory budget put the emphasis on voting online. So now you went to more strategic areas to talk to people. Yes, we wanted to get objective answers, but that's what we ended up with for tonight. Thank you. Councillor Arsenault, thank you, Your Worship. Judith, Madame Paulet, I'm happy to see you here tonight. The first cycle was fantastic. Everything went well. The climbing wall that was opened to the public was last Friday, October 4th. It was incredible. Madame Paulet, you said that the participation rate was 7%, and here it's 8.2%. That was very good. It's like going door to door, meeting people when you want them to vote. It was incredible. Thank you for your efforts. We really did a lot of door to door as well. Thank you. Anybody else? No? I thank you once again. And as it was mentioned, you must remember that with participation of 5.6% in 2015 was superior. That was the highest in North America at that time. And we're going to continue to go up the hill. Yes, it's new public participation, so we should be very proud. Thank you. Thank you. The next item, presentation, is coming later. Presentation on the concept of a public artwork. Emily Grasse Lavoie, good evening. The last time we saw each other, it was at Abidjan last summer. Thank you and congratulations once again. Your Worship, councillors, good evening. Thank you for allowing me to present the concept of public art. I'm going to start my presentation. This is an organism of organic forms, struts that represent rocks, sedimentary rocks that we find in Dieppe. The texture reflects the mascaret at the back of Pédicodiac, and I just wanted to say we have wood and metal elements that are not present right now. The material used for construction would be metal, and that would bring us back to the former railway that we had here in Dieppe, and reflects different cultures and organic pieces placed to create a circle for people to represent meetings and getting togethers. The form resembles a star or a propeller of an airplane, and it will be installed near the first airport of Dieppe. To be able to allude to aviation in Dieppe and the interaction within each peace and spaces that will create movement for vehicles who will drive around this artwork. And the title will be Stella Terra, inspired by Earth, Acadie and Ave Maria Stella. Stella Terra is the star of the Earth and celebrates Acadians at the heart of Acadia. We will also celebrate the linguistic equality of the region. Thank you. Where are you going to install it exactly? Madame Fournier. We propose the roundabout at Gauvin, Champlain, near the Dieppe airport. The airport's international. The games will be international. So the Franco Games in Abidjan last summer. So this artist will be her first public art that we will be presenting. Thank you. Any questions from councillors? Every time that we go near a roundabout, they ask us, the citizens ask us, what are you going to put there eventually? And now we're going to see, and we're looking forward to see the finished product and everything that the elements represent. There'll be a plaque on it to explain everything. I know we don't have to explain art, but sometimes you must, so that people can understand. Some people in Dieppe don't realize that the first airport in the region was on Gauvin Street, and not everybody knows this historic fact. So it's good to have integrated all these elements. No questions? Thank you. Have a good evening. Now we have a presentation on a petition. The motor vehicles that we have a problem with on Chartersville Road, a problem that I know very well. Sharon Giannet will present that I also know very well. I thought you would just jump over my presentation. No, not at all. At one time I thought maybe leave the room and to declare a conflict of interest. But I've got nothing to win there, just maybe a little bit more peace. I would just go to your house and tell you what I think. Good night. Good evening, Your Worship. I don't often call you that, councillors. And thank you to have accepted to hear our petition. Before I begin, I would like to thank people who helped me. Linda Boudreau, who's not here tonight, Don, Aaron Banks, and Chantal Galland. Thank you, and thank you to the people who signed the petition. I had no problems. Only one person said no, it was a youth. I think it was him that was driving fast on the street. Like he's going by around 11 o'clock with a loud muffler. Yes, and I heard on September 24th, I heard there were plugins at the council. Yes, there's a lot of noise. That's why we're coming here today. 97 people between Thomas and Pascal have signed the petition. 3 or 4 here tonight. They didn't have the chance to sign the petition, but there are quite a few of us here tonight. The petition reads as follows. We asked the city to control the speed, the number, noise on Chartersville Road, more particularly between Thomas and Pascal. I did the petition between Pascal and Thomas only because there is no control. There's no stop signs, lights, and only one crosswalk. Be sure to speak into the mic for the people in the hall and the interpretation services. Excuse me. I usually speak so loud anyway. I don't usually need a mic. As well, there are trucks. Well, that's a problem. I'll explain later in more detail. There are signs directly on Chartersville, and when the truck is on our street, they have passed by the sign and haven't seen it. There's no warning that is sufficient. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about that. A few years ago, I came to the city to mention this problem about the traffic on Chartersville. And I sent a letter to Mr. Jacques Leblanc. It was August 14th, 2013. And in that letter, I mentioned the problem we had with trucks. At that time, we had trucks that passed before our house. They had box cars. And trucks that were going to service stations, and we had cranes they were transporting on the back of the trucks. And what held my attention was that a truck that was parked in front of my house with 3 or 4 big cement tubes for a subdivision that we're starting to prepare on Thomas Street next to Gauvin.
So they were waiting for the other truck, or maybe 2 or 3 others of these big trucks. And they would go right past my house. So I followed them because they were going in the same direction as I was going to work. And when they got out of their truck, I went to talk to them. And I said, how come you're going by Chartersville? So there was a big detour to go to the end of Thomas, close to Gauvin. They didn't tell me who told them, but they told me that they were told to take that way. And I said, didn't you see these truck signs? And he said, by the time we got there, we already gone past the signs, because the signs are directly on Chartersville. So like I said earlier, they hadn't been forewarned. So I followed them and I talked to them, and that's what they told me. So when I saw that we had problems like that, oh yeah, also in my letter I mentioned the speed of the cars, even in 2013, because I had followed cars which were going 80, 90 kilometers an hour. And also, there are already problems with the amount of cars. So what did I do? I sat in my garage and I counted the cars that were going by. And Sunday, the 11th of August, 2013, I found my letter on my computer. Between 6:15 and 6:30, 70 cars went by, and that was a Sunday. So I said, I'm going to see what happens during the week. So Tuesday, the 13th of August, 2013, 139 cars went by between 5:45 and 6 o'clock. So I had suggested at the time the 3 stop signs at the corner of Bourg and at the corner of Fortune. Well, it's been 5 years and we're back with the same requests today. Absolutely nothing has changed. Nothing has been done. Now, the amount of cars has multiplied due to the development in the area. So I did the same thing as 2013. I sat in my garage and find out how many cars were going by in front of me, in front of my house. So Sunday, the 30th of September, between 5 and 6 o'clock, wasn't an extraordinary Sunday, 415 cars went by. And for those 15 minutes, during the 15 minutes like there was in 2013, during the 15 minutes there had been 90 that went by. So I said, okay, I'll do the Tuesday like I did in 2013. So Tuesday, the 2nd of October, I sat in my garage and I counted the cars for 45 minutes, 456 that went by. And for the 15 minutes, like I had done in 2013, 5:45 to 6, 149 cars went by for a total in 1 hour of 605. And they're not going at 40 miles an hour, or 40 kilometers an hour. So I said the only time that I didn't count the cars was during the morning. So the 3rd of October, the following day, it was Wednesday morning, at 7:30, from 7:30 to 7:45, 139 cars went by. From 7:45 to 8:30, 456 cars went by for a total of 595, almost 600 for 1 hour in the morning. And right now, between Pascal, I tried to calculate with my car how many kilometers. Between Thomas and Pascal, it's approximately 2 kilometers. So during that whole time, there's nothing to slow down cars. And today, this morning, I was coming back home. I was following a car. He was going between 75 and 80 kilometers, and I followed him. Don't tell him. Maybe there's a warning that's, you're going to get a warning here. Well, yesterday was a holiday, so I was coming back home from a store, and he was going 80 kilometers an hour, but I slowed down. I didn't follow him all the way. So in our petition, and you know, I talked to people. I went door to door, and I talked to people to see what they thought about it. Was it just me? Because I'd done it in 2013, so I'm doing it again in 2018. So what are we requesting? What have the people suggested? Is it more pedestrian walkways? Lighted pedestrian walkways. You don't need big lights. They could be a button that you can press on and have a blinking light. At Rideau and Pascal, Bourg and Alberta Lane, at least 3 stops at Bourg and Chartersville, and maybe 3 stops at Chartersville and Fortune, or maybe bumps, stops. We also heard a lot of noise from cars. We talked to you about that on the 24th. When I buy a car, I'm supposed to have a muffler. I can't buy it without a muffler. There are some others who buy cars and they add different things to make more noise. And we accept this. There's no regulation to stop this. There are other places that I've seen, they have regulation to control the noise of cars and also to not accept this type of thing for their cars. So when I was talking to the residents, or I was going for the signatures, they mentioned their concern when children cross Chartersville to go to school. And Rideau Street goes directly to Anna Malenfant. Children have to cross. When there's the morning traffic, and when it was calculated, there was almost 600 cars, and there's no pedestrian walkway. And Alberta Lane, there's a path that goes to the school. And also, children who take the school bus, they walk along the road. They don't walk on the sidewalk. And they are also in danger because, like I said, the cars are not going at 40 kilometers an hour. And I also heard from one of the residents at the corner of Thomas and Chartersville. There are 4 stops there. But he said that there are enough accidents. And he says he mentioned it to the municipality. He phoned. And according to him, nothing has been done and everything stays the same. And even a couple of weeks ago, I went by there. Well, I go there, through there, or by there almost every day. And at that day, we were 4 of us at the stop sign, Chartersville and Thomas. The car that had the right-of-way went by, but the car behind him went through the stop sign behind him at the same time. So there are accidents there. I mean, and it's because of people who don't drive well. And put a note here for the RCMP. They can't be there 24 hours a day. But, I mean, technology exists today, like I've seen in other municipalities. Cameras that take pictures of cars. A lady just told me today there are things with lights all around so people can see them. And these are all things that, I mean, we could use technology to help us have these people slow down, have the traffic slow down, and to make our roadways more safe. I'm not an engineer, and I'm not an urban planner, but here we are quite a few residents of the Chartersville, and we're telling you about our concerns, and we're describing a dangerous condition on this street. And like I said, I sent a letter on the 14th of August, 2013, and absolutely nothing has changed on Chartersville, and this is at the expense of the residents. And even it also affects the other streets around Chartersville. Another point that I didn't put on the petition, but people mentioned it, they were concerned, it's the bicycle paths. And on Chartersville, there are 2 of them, one on each side of the roadway. I measured. And both of them together It's approximately 11 point, close to 12 feet. And the new bicycle path on Amiro, I see that in other municipalities, you have the 2 lanes on the same side and just a broken line between the 2, and that's just 7 feet 3 inches. So if we had something like that on Chartersville, we would probably have 2 to 2.5 feet more for cars. And if it was put on the sidewalk side, because on the other side there are no lampposts, so there'd be the sidewalk, there'd be the lights, there'd be the bicycle path that would be safer, and with families, with children 3, 4 years old, the little ones are going to be riding their bikes on the sidewalk, and the parents would be on the bicycle path. Right now, they're all parents and children. They're adults who also said that they want to be on the sidewalk, but the adults say we don't want to ride our bicycles on the sidewalks. But if everything was on one side of the street, and even us, the car drivers, we have to look at both sides, because now it's not just the bicycles who go there. It's almost not bicycles. It's youngsters with skateboards, with roller skates, even families with baby carriages, people who are walking, people who are running on these paths. So, I mean, this type of thing maybe would help to put it all on one side of the street. That's basically all I have. If anybody wants to concern of parents for the children, school is like I said, especially on Rideau. There are a couple of children who go to an enfant school. They have to cross the road during the busiest time. Like I said, there are approximately 595 cars who go by on Chartersville at that time. Okay, thank you for the presentation of the petition. Okay, we also have a copy of all that, so thank you very much for all that. I see that Councillor Gaudette has a question or a comment. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your presentation. I want to talk on the same topic. Like you said, it's not just Chartersville where there's a problem like that. There are other places there's the same problem. And concerning a comment earlier on the number of tickets that had been given in Dieppe, last year when I put in that request, there was 53 tickets that were given in the whole municipality for the whole year. And most of the tickets were given on Acadie, Amiro, Dieppe, and Champlain. So it shows that there's very little supervision in the neighborhoods. So there was a study recently. I don't remember the people. I think it was Pan-Canadian, Madame Spencer had made a presentation during which it was mentioned that one of the best ways to reduce speed in the municipalities is by physical means, either by bumps or narrowing or stop signs. We realize this year after year, but I think that we have 3 bumps in the municipality, one on Gauvin, one on Bourg, but the rest of the municipality, there's nothing in front of the school. I mean, we've fought for a long time to have 3-way stop signs. Maybe we have 2 or 3 in the municipality, so we have to continue to put pressure, and I'm part of that group, in order to obtain these stop signs, because if we had a couple of stops, it would really help the situation. So congratulations continue your pressure. I've seen it in other provinces. There was a residential street that was going into a commercial street. Well, at each corner, there was a three-way stop or a four-way stop. Here, it seems that the idea is to slow down traffic in the morning or in the afternoon. I mean, we have things to do. I'm going to give you the reason why they didn't want to put too many stops on Chartersville. When I got the answer from my letter, there were 5 reasons. I ripped up the letter, but I remember 2 of the reasons. They said it's going to be too expensive on gas for cars. But when at Quebec, there are stops at every corner, and their gas is 10 cents more expensive than ours. And then also they said it's just going to increase the noise because they have to stop, they have to accelerate. But if they don't have something to slow them, like somebody said at the council here with bumblebees with the cars, I heard the interpretations, it was bumblebee that were attached to the cars. Madame Arsenault. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You gave an excellent presentation. Thank you very much, and you have very good suggestions, and I'm sure that they'll all be studied. So thank you very much. But, I mean, we've been living there for 41 years, so we've seen the development. Yeah, and you have the experience of having lived through all that. Great. Thank you very much. Thank you. Councillor Thibodeau. Thank you, Madame Genet, for your presentation. Monsieur Thibodeau, I hadn't understood. Thank you for your presentation. I see that you've raised a few problems. There is one particularly, the one for the signs for trucks, that should be solved fairly easily. Now, concerning the others, the pedestrian walkways, the stop signs, I think the studies have to be done to see exactly where we have to put them up. Concerning the noise of vehicles, I don't know. I think the question would be for Staff Sergeant. Are there rules and regulations concerning the levels of decibels that are acceptable? Each vehicle every year has to be inspected. So already they have to go to a licensed garage for their sticker. Then afterwards, we don't have the equipment to find out the amount of decibels of exhaust. So it's a little complicated because what kind of equipment, some of them, I mean, we see it, the exhaust has a hole in it, so we can force them. But concerning the amount of noise, decibels, I mean, we trust the inspection, yearly inspection. If you leave the garage and you have your exhaust has been changed, then it should be working properly. And concerning the pedestrian walkways, it's for the safety of our children who go to school. That will have to be looked into for Rideau Street, like you said, Alberta Lane, which goes to the path in the back. So I think that we have enough matter to work on. Yes, it's a concern for us, even if we don't have little children at home. I was talking with an elderly person today who lives on Chartersville, but closer to Dieppe Boulevard. And she said the other day, I almost was hit by a car because it was going so fast. But the other day also, I observed, I was on Dieppe Boulevard at the corner of Chartersville. A truck was coming from the IGA part to go to the other side on the south. it was going fast enough, he wasn't able to stop when the light turned to red. It was completely red, and he went past it because he wasn't going too fast. He couldn't stop. He had a big truck. So these are situations that we're looking at, and we see those on a daily basis, and it scares us. And now I find, I don't know, on Chartersville, it's changed a lot lately. It was young before, we're older now. I mean, there are a lot of young families now with young children. I mean, they're replacing us, but we have to protect them. And even somebody had mentioned that people don't even let their children play in the front yard or even in the backyard because they're afraid that if they're going to play with a ball or something, it's going to end up in the street. And then, you know, or with the speed, like I said, I measured it today and yesterday. It's still the 75, 80 kilometers. And I find that the average speed on the street is approximately 70. Thank you, Monsieur Thibodeau. Monsieur Alain. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of clarifications, but still, Madame Genet, thank you for the presentation. First of all, I think that we've done good work on school zones on Melançon Street, for example. So we're listening. I hope that the city manager by interim, I mean, it has to be a delay, a certain timeline. 5 years is not acceptable. Just a clarification for Madame Spencer, if possible. The trucks are not allowed on Chartersville, is that right? Some delivery trucks or those whose destination is on Chartersville, but they don't have the right to go to use Chartervilles to go, for example, to Amiro or Dieppe Boulevard. Concerning the pedestrians, when we have a lot of bubbles. I mean, well, there are a lot of solutions, but you have the bumps. But we see a lot of bubbles in Fredericton. That would be one of the solutions. Councillor Godet was talking about them. Something that is physical that is going to slow the traffic down. So, Mr. Mayor, I hope that something is going to be done. I think that councillors around the table, we've certainly mentioned it about nice roadways, but that leads to speed, so we have to find a solution. Thank you, Madame Genet. Thank you, Monsieur Godet. One last thing. Yes, I just wanted to mention concerning the noise. Policemen and officer walk around with noise measuring devices I've never seen inside a garage. For example, when there's an inspection, whether they measure the noise of vehicles, because in Quebec you're allowed 110 decibels or 70 decibels, depending on how you drive. But we don't have anything like that here in the region, and I don't think that in the municipal bylaws there is a maximum decibel. I don't think so. So maybe it's something that we should look into, because in the inspections that the police can do, if you stop a motorcycle with your noise measuring device, you can measure exactly the amount of decibels that that motorcycle is putting up, and if it's beyond the levels, you can have it changed. We don't have that those pieces of equipment. It's something that I'll mention to Kodiak. It can't be expensive. It's also a question of a Motor Vehicle Act. What it permits us. It's called a noise measuring device, a sonometer. Well, once again, Madame Genet, thank you very much. There are a couple, I don't want to throw the debate again, but we know that there's a lot of work to do with the provincial government and the Motor Vehicle Act. because I know that we've had interventions with the 8 municipalities of New Brunswick to ask the province of New Brunswick to change the act in order to give us the permission to install photo devices at intersections. We see very often people going past a red light. I'm at my office in the morning and I see the intersection of Champlain and Acadie, and I can tell you that I can see a minimum 2 or 3 an hour that go past the red light. People are just too much in a hurry to get to where they're going. Life is too short to take a chance on a light like that. I know that systems exist in provinces in Canada with photos at the red lights, and that, I mean, there's a lot of savings, notwithstanding injury. It's not a question of giving tickets, it's reducing the weight on the police, the fire, the insurance rates that are increasing because of this type of thing, and then people who don't pay. I mean, you know, when they renew their license plates, that's when it's time to pay the fiddler at that time, and that's when they get really hit if they don't want to go pay their tickets. So it's things that we're working on already with the province of New Brunswick. I don't know what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks with the province. So we know that there is going to be a government at one point, and the Association of the Cities of New Brunswick are going to basically continue to work on what is related to transportation in our municipalities. Once again, thank you very much for all of you. You're welcome to stay the rest of the evening with us. There are still a lot of exciting things to continue here. So that being said, the public hearing, no, 7.7 petition, multiple unit dwelling development. Mr. Simard. I'm going to have to turn his mic on.
This petition is a special case. It doesn't follow this regular procedure. It was given to the planning committee. It's a development of a house, 12-unit house on Celestin. I can read it to you, and then you can ask questions to Mr. Frenette. There's a petition against a 12-unit multi-family unit. This is the founding of the measures and decisions that will be taken to protect and improve the quality of life of residents. This request of Mr. Charles Poirier for this 12-unit multifamily dwelling on the vacant lot at the intersection Melançon and Celestin risks changing the quality of life for our residents. So we have all these signatures saying that Mr. Poirier says that the quality of life will be reduced for the following reasons: depreciation of the value of his house, increase in traffic and noise in a cul-de-sac, visual pollution, increase of traffic and big trucks in our cul-de-sac. And it puts into question the safety of our children as well and the quality of our life. Is there anybody here to represent this group of citizens? Please go to the mic and identify yourself, please. Worship, Councillor Mam Alain Hebert. I live on 34 Fidèle. It's between the lot proposed, the streets are Celestin Fidèle. This petition, read by Mr. Simard, was signed by residents that were consulted before the meeting of the Planning Committee on September 19th. So this petition states the miscontent of residents who are against this 12-unit building. It doesn't fit into our community on this corner. We have single-dwelling families. Since the meeting of council, this is quite a process, zoning and construction, and it's a learning curve for us as well, for citizens at these meetings. We talked to Madame Lise Boutier, Roger Leblanc, and I want to thank them to have enlightened us on this process and options available to us. Zoning was changed in 2015, and the developer has nothing to reproach himself because he worked with this zoning. So he's doing what he thinks he has to do. However, the change of this zoning went unnoticed by the residents. And now we're learning it with this new construction project. It's already been done. What we would like to do is change what we can. At the council meeting, we mentioned 5 concerns with the development of these 12 units. The exterior finish of the building, the parking lot that would come out on Celestin Street, and there would be on Melasso Street, there would be an entrance as well, and there's trees that we would want to have in the winter. Residents are concerned about this. If the project goes ahead, it's an exceptional situation because citizens were surprised by this. Can we not have other options? Right now, the developer could consider other construction options that would be better for the neighborhood. The second option is to look at accommodation methods, as I mentioned. The third option, when I was coming here tonight, I came out of Fidel Street along Melassa, and I saw there are vacant lots next to the arena on the other side of the road. Maybe you could look at that to displace this project in a place that would be better. We talked about the residents. We talked with residents. And what we'd like to propose is a working group with the developer, maybe Roger Leblanc, and a few employees of the city who know the regulations and options, and to work with goodwill together to see if we could find a reasonable accommodation for the developer and the citizens. Michel Bertin 29, 29 Celestin. My concern is from 29 Celestin. I can't see this building, but it will increase traffic. We already have a problem with traffic in Celestin Court, and a lot of cars are parked along the streets. We already have a problem with that, and some people are parking in the middle, so we have 4, 5, 6 cars, one beside the other, and a lot of children play there. If we add 12 more units, There'll be 12 more cars, 9 spaces, 21 possible cars, and it's just across a daycare, and there's a lot of traffic there. So my concern is the safety of children and adults as well. And we already have problems with parking, so people that can't park there in the parking spaces, they park on the street, and it adds the same problem if this project is approved. We'll have even more cars, and it will increase the safety issues for children. Mr. Frenette, André Frenette, I had to think of your first name to remember your last name. Mr. Frenette, do you know if we've had discussions beforehand before this developer? It's a possibility, but there are things that we can't change. What you mentioned tonight, there's an item that was presented where there could be an opening, and that would be trees, planting trees. He explained that he would work with the neighborhood to see what types of trees he could plant near the limits of his development. That's about what he was ready to negotiate with the entrance. I don't know if people who don't know of what lot it is while we're waiting. I'm happy to see so many students tonight. Why are we honored with your presence? It's technology and communication. So we're happy to see you. Welcome. We're waiting for technology. So while we're waiting, other means were mentioned at the last meeting as well, and we explained the problem with parking right now. It should be sent to the clerk's office, or for bylaw, people that do the bylaws. And I wondered if there was any other problems in another cul-de-sac who had the same problem. And right now there's an overflow, like you explained. There are people visiting the residents of Celestin Street with the entrance access directly to Melanson, like it was explained at the presentation of the planning committee. Engineering services examined this question. So when we have a request, we send the information to different sectors if there's going to be impact, to get their feedback. And for us, it's important to ensure public safety, and we explained Melanson Street is an arterial street, so it'd be in front of that property. We have a sidewalk because there are young children in the neighborhood and pedestrians. So we wanted an access on Melanson street, it's a straight line, and there's speeding. But it's better to have a complete stop. So on Celestin, we would have a stop. So with an internal analysis was done, and with parking, the standards are met, and the zoning bylaw is being respected. And the parking is in the front yard of the building. So all these factors were considered when we did our analysis before we gave our report to the planning committee. In 2006, this lot is quite large, so it was presumed that it would be used for something other than a single unit dwelling. And with our municipal plan, we have a principles for this type of development on Ontario streets or collector streets and Melanson. On Melanson, we favor this type of building. And on the other side, we have a bus stop. And it follows the same intentions for multi-dwelling, 5 stories. The same type of development is being built on Go-Fast Street, so it follows our municipal plan. And in 2015, we had an amendment, but the usage permitted, actually, at the time being, is more restrictive than what we had before 2015. Before, we could have had a restaurant, a strip mall. We could have stores or medical centers. So we could have had a lot of traffic in the sector. But if you look at the zoning in the sector, it's RHM, residential and mixed. So in this sector, Celestin and Fidèle, it's the same type of zoning. Before it was commercial zoning, and now it's residential and mixed zoning. With this building, we respect, the norms are being respected. And with materials as well, there are specific materials, like 50% of the facade should have specific materials. And so all these factors encourage the recommendation. They couldn't refuse it. They just had to set conditions that were reasonable. They couldn't be unreasonable, otherwise they would go onto appeal. We've been working with the developer with conditions that we have added. Minimum would have been a chain link fence, and we improved the appearance by building a wooden fence, and we worked with the developer to integrate landscaping with the fence. So with the personnel, with staff, we made conditions and that we presented to the planning committee. So that's a resume of the evening. But there's nothing to stop citizens from contacting the developer and maybe make other suggestions. But there's not much more that the council can do at this point. The building fits within the zoning legally. I would suggest that you contact the developer and see if he can accommodate you as you suggested. It's an option. Of course, we've had a lot of discussions between the city and the developer, but the citizens were not consulted. What I mentioned a while ago, we discussed this with the developer himself. I would prefer it to be done with the city. We would have access to the city's expertise. There may be other options as well that could come out that we could take advantage of, and we could benefit from Mr. Frenette's expertise as well. The expertise, you just received it. Frenette mentioned some points. The conditions were set by the city, but there are questions like the parking, the exit to the parking lot. It's not unusual to see an exit from a parking lot on other streets. The other exits are coming out on Melançon. Here I think you have to look more closely at the residence on Celestin. There's a lot of congestion. There must be other options for the exit from the parking lot. If we could come to an agreement, would be better. We don't want to stop the project. We would want the developer to give us other options, or that the city could offer options. We could work together to find something better. All we can do is to encourage you to work with the developer. I don't know if councillors are ready to go into that direction, your local councillor, and maybe from somebody from Mr. Frenette's division. But for us, we have very few options. I would like to add Madame Melançon, who is right here, has a visual sightline. And you can, even if the fence is 6 feet tall, you're going to see within it. And on their side, you have the garbage cans. And on the visual side, it's not very pretty. How are they going to access those garbage cans? Is the truck going to get there? There's a little playground for the children as well, and that's a question of safety. And then the other thing is a visual aspect. How do we hide all this stuff? When it comes to the garbage cans, we have regulations in zoning, be it commercial properties or residential. They must be fenced off, so it can't be seen by the public. The option I mentioned a while ago, to look at the lot by the arena, it would be more appropriate for this type of building with 12 units, rather than the middle of all these single-dwelling homes. Maybe he would be interesting. I don't know. We could look at our options.
I'm speaking for myself. I will border the property of the apartment building, and my neighbor next door, also Dan Duchesne, who's also on the petition, whatever. He's looking at, we're on Fidel. We will all be looking into the apartment building and facing this side, which we believe is going to be the trash or the garbage area. We know that there will be a solid fence on Mr. What's Dan's last name? Savoie? Savoie. Mr. Savoie's property, but Mr. Duchesne and I would request that we also, the solid fence comes completely around to the one point in the area. I'm sure you're familiar with where we mean. In
You're
the property.
At 16 Fidel, excuse me.
16, yeah, he's at 16, and he sent me a text this afternoon to ask that it be extended, and I'm at 22. I can show you on the back half of your property. Yeah, and where it goes across on a... And then you can end the fence and you can put your trees, I guess, and block off your own property, your pathways, not pathways, but your patios.
So at this...
For your clients.
Yeah. At this time, Mr. Mayor, all that discussion was being dealt the past meeting. The developer is not here right now. The decision has been made by the committee. So if that's something that you want to address with the developer, please feel free, as well as the landscaping of the site itself. But right now, it's not the mandate of the council to deal after the fact.
But are there not bylaws that, I mean, we're saying they amend by all the bylaws. And I mean, I did read a few bylaws, so they do have to provide a fence.
Exactly.
When it's a multi-unit versus a residential housing, right?
Yeah. It was dealt, like I said, it was dealt at that meeting, and well, I guess that's something that we can...
Not the particular owners that they asked, it was the committee. I was there. Yeah. We didn't get to say, well, we want that fence. We were, you know...
well...
We expressed our concerns about the building that was there, and the amendments you were saying that they wanted to break up the fence instead of making it solid. And we understand, yes, I know a fence can look somewhat of an eyesore, but looking at a garbage disposal is also an eyesore to some of us, because we'll be looking directly down as the land is below.
Je crois qu'est-ce qui manque, Monsieur le maire et conseil, dans le processus de la ville, c'est...
In the city's process, there's a mechanism to have the participation of citizens. At the council meeting, we mentioned this. We didn't go into it very deeply in these discussions. We were looking at options. One of the reasons why you think it's unidirectional is because we already had discussions. It took place with the planning committee, and there were conditions imposed. The zoning is okay. There's no problem there. You could have had things even worse. It could be a 4-story building or a commercial building. Or it could be a Tim Hortons or a McDonald's. The options there at the time being, I know you're disappointed. I understand, but legally, in my experience, is that I remember one municipal council in the region who was in error in a zoning question, had not allowed the developer to do it, and it went to court, and it cost a lot of money legally, and the person lost a lot of business because he couldn't take advantage of the pleasure that the law allowed him. So I don't know in what situation you think we are. I'm asking Councillor Leblanc, his mic is open, I'll ask him if he thinks there's something we could do. Perhaps a meeting with the citizens and the developer, but that meeting already took place.
Developer who's in the legal, in a straight legal position, there's no wrongdoing on his part. That meeting has already taken place. And is there room on his part for more? It's not for us to ask that to him, you know, as a council.
No, I guess
But if one of the councillors, your ward councillor, and or, you know, one of the conseillers généraux, one of the at-large councillors wants to get involved in the process with you and the developer, that's entirely up to them as individuals. I hate to say this, but I don't think the council can go any further.
Je comprends, Monsieur le maire.
There's also a legal issue. If discussions take place, it must be a good faith. It's a developer that's known in the region. I don't know why he wouldn't want to discuss this without prejudice. We're not committing to anything, just to have a discussion. Mr. Leblanc, thank you, Your Worship.
I understand that our hands are tied, and the project is going to go forward whether we want it or not. There's no question about that. Question of garbage, I'm sure totally at the back of the building. Put that building for the garbage instead of elsewhere. That can be discussed. That's fairly simple. Where I have a lot of problems is the exit on Célestin Street. Following the meeting with Alain yesterday morning and his neighbor, I went around. I looked at the daycare with the children. It's really busy with the exit on Amiro, on Melançon, and the exit on Célestin. Right there, we're sending all the daycare traffic to Célestin. If we'd had the possibility of having 3 or 4 semi-detached already on the Chemin Melançon, but we could have 6 or 7 exits, depending on the amount of units that we would have built if we had subdivided the land. I find it very difficult to understand why we can't have the exit on Melançon. So, and leave the Célestin as is with the daycare. It's a small street, it's not that long, and already the residents who are there, you got the daycare, then you're adding 12 units on Célestin. So I can really understand the concern of people on Célestin concerning the congestion. The outside, the trees, okay, that's something that, but the decision to exit on Célestin is the municipality's responsibility, for sure. Other 2 options, I know that there's a sidewalk. The sidewalk continues in front of the daycare. It's safe to have it in the daycare, in front of the daycare, then it's safe to have the exit on Melançon. Oh, correction, there's no sidewalk. Oh, no, okay, it stops there. It's the exit. The exit is on Melançon. There's an exit and an entrance on Melançon, and so if 2 units supposed to have just 1 entrance, 1 exit. Yeah, they meet all the requirements of the zoning bylaw, and even then, safety-wise, I explained it last time. I'm re-explaining it today. It's preferable to bring the traffic to a stop sign rather than opening up on an arterial street. Those are the recommendation of the. There's a meeting that's being organized with the citizens The developer, I have no problem with that, in participating in the discussion. I don't think there's a magic solution. To accommodate as much as we can the neighborhood, because I wouldn't want to start a development with on a bad start. I think the developer has, well, he knows the community and he wants to do it. I want to ask our manager to send us the information. I can't make an informed decision tonight because I don't have I don't even know the map. I don't have the necessary information to make a decision.
It's kind of our job too to be good corporate citizens. So if you move forward with a meeting, please invite me at the same time, because people have to definitely just be good corporate citizens. So that's one thing.
We're not opposed to it being
No.
developed. It's
And I think the mayor was pretty clear that what's done here is already, the decisions have already been made. But as a community, if we want to improve it, accommodement raisonnable is something definitely. Donc, so, Madame Ménazon, Monsieur Hébert, Monsieur Bertin, s'il vous plaît.
Mr. Hébert, Monsieur Martin, please, as soon as I get the information, I'll be able to make an enlightened choice. And thank you, Monsieur Simard. Yes, so Monsieur Daniel Alain, I hear you. We'll get you the information. That being said, like I said earlier at the beginning, it's a procedure that's an exceptional one. We're not in something that's legal. But we have to remember what the PAC is, because the PAC is basically representatives of the population. Monsieur Hébert, you were mentioning the link of the population with the council and planning. The PAC is members of the population on that committee that pronounce themselves on these things, so they do the work on there. Another element that's important, the mayor mentioned it earlier, it's a procedure that's called the mandamus. If somebody asks for a legal permit, everything is correct, and we refuse, then we can be sued, and that's not what we were looking for. So yes, that being said, I'll give the information, because we do have it. It came and went through the Planning Advisory Committee, and I encourage you to meet with the developer and discuss these. These are people that you can talk to. It's probably the best thing that you can do. Thank you, Councillor Godet. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to come back to the Councillor Leblanc's point. If Mr. Poirier had decided to build, and I look at the land, there's at least room at least for 3 duplexes. So with 3 duplexes, there's a possibility of 6 entrances. Would that have been permitted, this type of thing? Because if, in fact, if there's a duplex, you need an entrance. So you need an entrance for each of the 3 duplexes. So instead of having 3 or 6 entrances, we only have 1 entrance at the end of the lot. So is that not better than having it on the other side? I can answer that. No, it wouldn't have been something that we would want to have 3 entrances or 6 entrances. Well, we would wanted to have 1 entrance on Célestin. Monsieur Godet, you just turned your mic off. I turned it on again. You had turned it off. That means that there's a discretion on this one? On the municipality says, yes, based on the best of their knowledge. So good luck in your deliberations with the developer, and you've received an offer of participation and potential support from some members, 2 members, possibly 3 with Madame Boutillier, members of council. So good luck. Public hearing, rezoning application on Olivier Street, Land Securities Limited. Monsieur Girard. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is public hearing for a proposal of rezoning on Olivier Street. It's procedure. I'll be presenting the project. We'll look at the regulation, the proposed changes, and see if we've received comments or if there are comments from the sector's residents. Just to give you some background for the zoning change procedure, Council made a decision for rezoning on the 10th of September. The 11th of September, we had a public notice as required by the Planning Act. We also sent them to the residents within 100 meters of the lot in question. And the deadline was the 9th of October, which is today, which is a public hearing. And the next meetings on the 17th of October, there's a meeting of the Planning Advisory Committee. They'll make recommendations to Council, and if the Council wishes, it can proceed to the reading of the bylaws on the 13th of November. So the owner of the land is Land Securities Limited. The agent, Arnold, PID, you have them before you, 006694440 and the 0092814. And the site is on the north side of Olivier Street. So as you can see on the screen, you can see the sector, the 438 Paul Street, which is on Paul Street, and the lands are on Olivier Street. What is being proposed would be to take the house, the single-family house, and to transfer that into parking to serve the property at the 438 Paul Street. Right now, the property is a CS. It's commercial zoning, and that commercial zone does not permit parking alone. It has to be attached to another main use. That's the reason for the rezoning, is to permit a standalone parking without being linked to land on Paul Street. So what is being presented here would be approximately 28 parking spots, parking to serve the building on 438 Paul Street. So staff would be able to park there to help out on the parking that's on Paul Street. So we've received, the owner, the developer has written that there is a parking problem, and that's the reason to proceed with this rezoning for extra parking spaces to help them continue to manage their business. So what is being moved or proposed here is to modify the zone of the two lots in front of you from CS to CR. And there would have to be a change of the zoning, accepting the zone CC. The parking has to be on the same lot and in the same zone as the main use. And we're proposing to eliminate the text that says on the same lot, so that we could read that the parking should be in the same zone only. So that concludes the presentation of the public hearing. Like I mentioned, the next step would be the notice on the 13th of November. No, the 17th of October, the PAC meeting, and then on the 17th of October, the PAC meeting, and then the council meeting on the 13th of November. I have a question concerning the property just next to it. The one on the left, in the middle. What is there? This is I believe it's a single-family house. So somebody's still living there in the house. Have these people been notified? Yes. There would be ways to work on the aesthetic aspect. We have to consider that that whole sector is zoned commercial, and that it's basically a non-conforming use. So if the land were vacant, the owner could not get a development permit for a single family. The direction that the sector is taking is commercial. We realize that parking is not anything ideal, but if the owner sees an opportunity to intensify his site for a commercial building, obviously he will do that, and he would be permitted by the zoning, a restaurant or something in the future. So we're not avoiding something in the future. It's in relationship to the mayor's question on the on those two residences next to them. Were they notified, both of them? Number two, is it possible to have just one entrance on Sainte-Thérèse and no entrance on Olivier Street? It would be difficult because here is really a standalone lot, so it wouldn't be to put the lands together with the property. For me, the intention was to have an exit directly from Olivier Street. So there's no entrance to the existing parking in the back that's from Sainte-Thérèse. There would be a connection, but there could be a connection, yeah, with the arrow that you see on the screen. The idea would be to have a connection on both sides. Madame Le Boutillier. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, me, it's the same idea as Mr. Alain. When I look at the parking, it really makes me question the possibilities that we could have. I mean, people are going to be cutting from one street to the other, just having quick access, and then the added noise for the residents. So we have to make sure that for the municipality, maybe to have extra effort that to make sure that these two residents are at least contacted, to make sure by phone, or to make sure that they're aware. I mean, there could be different reasons. It's a question of age. When I look at this, it seems to me that parking access on both sides could create some definite challenges. No other questions? That's the end of the public presentation. I don't know if the developer is here, or would he have questions or comments?
This property, really, every time.
Cette propriété, vraiment, c'est vacant, et chaque fois qu'on parle de possibilité de location, c'est toujours une question de stationnement. On avait acheté la maison il y a plusieurs années, mais tout en sachant que on aurait besoin.
Assist us in making this property viable. And at one time, when it was built, if you were here years ago, I mean, it was a retail furniture store.
Right.
requirement for parking was significantly less. And now that it's a multi-tenant property, the demand for parking is very, very different. And it's just essential that we have the ability to provide parking when the opportunity presents.
Can you please speak in the mic, because I know our translators can't.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Well, parking, I don't know how far back you wish me to go, but
yeah.
When this property was initially purchased or built around 1975 and 1976, it was for the purposes of a retail furniture store.
Right.
Some of you maybe would remember that.
Yeah.
And the demand for parking at that time was very, very different than it is today. For a retail furniture store, the parking was very different. And now that it's a multi-tenant building, it has changed. And the obstacle, our biggest obstacle, is not the location of the building. It's the inability for us to provide sufficient parking for certain tenants that have expressed interest in the property.
Okay. Thank you.
But I'd be happy to answer
any questions from council.
Any question that you might have.
Nope. Okay, thank you very much. Continues. Merci. Alors, ça conclut la section.
Thank you. So that puts an end to 7. The other item is 8 questions by members of the public, whom we're losing by the minute. So we need the item 9, adoption of minutes, September 24th, 2018. Moved and seconded. No questions. All those in favor of the recommendation, say aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Carried. Now, 10 motions, memorandums, and nominations. 10.1, administration policy A39, municipal toponymic designation policy. Toponymic. Monsieur Simard. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, it's necessary to have a name bank for streets. The committee was set up for toponymic designation policy, and that's what we're presenting here. Planning Service and Development is responsible to set up the committee. That committee will be making recommendations to council, which will decide of the names unless the council delegates that responsibility to an organization, for example, mandate-wise. The policy also sees that there will be commercialization of names. The city is going to make sure that there's a linguistic language proportion will be respected for 2 names, also for masculine and feminine in French. Participation of the public will be ensured by the municipality. The public will be invited to participate in the committee and also to suggest names of streets to the municipality. For named streets, they will be presented to the Planning Advisory Committee. And then, so that is the essential aspects of the policy. The next step is to set up the committee. For the reading of the resolution, Madame Arsenault. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Council adopt a new policy, A39, entitled Municipal Toponymic Designation Policy. Moved by Madame Arsenault, seconded by Councillor Thibodeau. On the question. No question. All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Carried as presented. 10.2.1. Oh, no, sorry. 10.2.1. Public artwork. So, approval concept of public artwork. We heard earlier Madame Grace-Lavoie, her project. The city is waiting for a confirmation of funding for the installation of artwork as heritage from the Academy Games. Madame Grace-Lavoie presented the project. So today we're asking you to approve the concept of this artwork. It would be set up at the roundabout Gauvin and Champlain. For the reading of the resolution, Monsieur Brideau. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That Council approve the design of the public artwork entitled Stella Terrace, created by artiste Émilie Grace-Lavoie. So moved, Mr. Mayor. Moved by Councillor Brideau, seconded by Councillor Alain. On the question? No question? Madame Le Boutillier. It's more a question of information. The size of this artwork, we're talking about nothing gives us an indication of the size. And my question is more because it's going to be at a roundabout. Is it going to block visibility? Has that been studied? Thank you. We're going to look at it with engineering department and the artist and the company that's going to be building it. We are going to be giving a contract, so we're going to be looking at all those elements. And her artwork, as you see all the pieces of wood here. Between that, we're leaving space so that you can look on the other side. You'll be able to see directly on the other side. So it's something that was done. That's one of the reasons why it was conceived that way. There's space so that you can see on the other side. So that's all things that are going to be discussed, with the funding that we have. We'll see what it means and what we've playing around with, and we'll bring it back to council for recommendation. The size of the artwork, the height is going to be determined. She doesn't mind the height. 12 meters. We know that we have 5 meters to work with because the roundabout is 13 meters. So we have 5 meters to play with. So we're going to look at everything with the engineers as to what we can do. Does that answer your question? Thank you. No other question? All those in favor of resolution, signify by saying aye. Contrary minded, nay. Carried. .3.1 Installation approval on-site sewage disposal system for 400 Arsenault Street. So, as you can see, the bylaw concerning the local improvements, there's a zoning bylaw. The inspector cannot give a building concerning only if the parcel has a sewer, unless municipal council has declared it's not necessary. So this is the case here. The request of 400 Arsenault, which does not have a municipal sewer system, so it is necessary to install a septic sewer system, private. So we're asking you, pursuant to 4245, to put a sewer disposal system. Thank you for the reading of the resolution. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The council accept the council declare the installation of municipal sanitary sewers not required to service the property identified under PID 700144451, located at 400 Arsenault Street under Section 12BII of Bylaw 8225, entitled A Bylaw Relating to Local Improvements. So moved. Moved by Councillor Thibodeau, seconded by Councillor Leblanc. On the question? No question? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary minded, nay. Carried as presented. 10.4.1 Planning and Development Acceptance Recommendation from the PAC Tentative Plan Champlain Development Limited Subdivision. Reading. No, it's to accept a recommendation. The couple wants to develop the lot for multifamily dwelling. That lot was submitted to the PAC, and they are recommending that $3,400 in lieu of land for public purposes, which is the market value of the property. So that's the recommendation. If you have any questions, you can ask Monsieur Frenet. For the reading of the resolution, first of all, Monsieur Leblanc. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Council accept the recommendation of the Planning Advisory Committee relating to the acceptance of the Champlain Development Limited Subdivision tentative plan, and further accept the developer pay the amount of $3,400 in lieu of land for public purposes, which represents 8% of the market value of said subdivision land. Moved by Councillor Leblanc, seconded by Councillor Godet. On the question. No questions? All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Contrary minded, nay. Carried. 11, municipal bylaw, S6 2018 relating to dog control. Reading. Summary. Monsieur Leblanc. Bylaw number S-6 2018, a bylaw relating to dog control. Pursuant to the authority vested in it by the Local Governance Act, SNB 2017, Chapter 18, the Council of the Municipality of Dieppe duly assembled and acts as follows. 1. Definitions. 2. License. 3. Responsibilities of owners. 4. Rabies. 5. Seizing and impounding. 6. Fierce or dangerous dogs. 7. Appeal. 8. Dog park. 9. Offenses. So moved in summary. Moved by Councillor Leblanc, seconded by Councillor Thibodeau. On the question. No question?
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Summary reading. Against, no. Carried as presented. Now for third, last reading by title only. Mr. Leblanc. Bylaw number 6, S6 2018, a bylaw relating to dog control. I so move in third reading. Third and last reading, moved by Councillor Leblanc, seconded by Councillor Thibodeau. For the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary minded, nay. Bylaw S6 2018 is carried in third reading. 12, notice of motion. None. 13, inquiries and announcements by members of council. Mr. Godet, you won tonight. Go ahead. I have nothing much in my wallet tonight. I have nothing for tonight. Councillor Leblanc. Thank you, Your Worship. I asked a question a while ago to Mr. Simard about something I can ask Mrs. Spencer. I received an email a while ago on why we're talking about the sidewalk near the bus shelter close to the daycare. Well, we have a period of a 2-year guarantee, and there are holes in the sidewalk, and we thought it would continue to deteriorate. So it's the developer that has to remove it, and he's going to replace it at his own cost. It's just a section of it? Yes. For your information, we have the same situation on Gauvin Street. Last year, the developer has 2 years to do the work. We wanted to do it when the road was closed, but they went to see experts because they didn't agree with us to replace the sidewalk. So now it will have to go until next year. It's the same person, the same developer. So are we going to redo it, the one in Fox Street this year? Yes. Thank you. Councillor Brideau. I have nothing to mention this evening. Thank you. Councillor Leboutillier. Two things. Firstly, I want to congratulate and to thank all the organizers of the festival we had this weekend, Food Fest. It was wonderful. I saw a lot on social media. There were a lot of people there as well. Secondly, I would like the city to look at in the future, with all the technology we have and toys that people have. They have drones. A lot of citizens have mentioned to me the intrusion now of these drones. They're in their yards, and they're not comfortable with that. So they would like the municipality to look at that, maybe a bylaw that would give them a right to privacy. Mr. Sewell, you have a comment? Yes, I'm surprised because usually that's a federal question. Anything that's aviation is federal. Usually drones should not be within 8 kilometers of an airport. And after a certain size, you need a permit to fly them. So at the city level, it's not the best place to settle this. It's a federal question, just so we could ask questions and maybe police or at the airport to see how we could solve these problems. If somebody sees a drone, you can always call the city. We have bylaw officers that could go and visit these people. That would be a first step. If not, it will be complicated for us. You're talking about the little engines, not military sizes. It's more of a nuisance than anything else. It could be something that we should look at. It's not within our jurisdiction. Drones can fly up to a certain height, and there's big sizes. You need a special permission. I know somebody that works in that sector. I think it would be important to check on this and do some research. Thank you, Mrs. Leboutillier. Councillor Leboutillier, you have nothing else? Councillor Thibodeau. Yes, I have a question for Mrs. Spencer. On Boulevard Dieppe, across the building that they're constructing now, there's the asphalt and the sidewalk. Is it the developer that's responsible for that? Obviously, it's the developer that's responsible. We have a deposit that's twice the value of the work to ensure that if he doesn't go ahead and doesn't repair what he's ruined, that we can go after him, but it's his responsibility. Is there a certain time period that he has to do the work? Because there's a lot of mud there. I don't have the answer. I don't know if this date. I can check and come back to you with the answer. That's all. Thank you. Councillor Arsenault, thank you, Your Worship. I hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving. I wanted to say that in Dieppe we have a lot of activities. I went to 3 events lately. The book club on October 4th was here, and the opening of the climbing wall at the Boys and Girls Club here in Dieppe. And then the walk in woolen socks took place on October 5th at the co-op, so we're quite family-oriented here in Dieppe. We're very devoted. For the walk we did in woolen socks, it was wonderful to see all these people in a good mood on Champlain Street up to the co-op. And I wanted to mention to the sergeant here, October 17th, we're legalizing cannabis. I hope nobody's going to be driving under the influence. Good luck and thank you. Thank you, Mr. Alain. A couple things, like Councillor Arsenault mentioned, we're a family unit, but we're going into the arenas soon. We have hockey, ringuette, and figure skating and others. So be nice to all the staff of the city of Dieppe who take care of all these arenas. We're losing a big piece with our chief firefighter who's leaving us. I hope we can get regional services some point. You redressed all our firefighters, and I congratulate you, and I hope we can have a good replacement. I'm happy to see we have a toponymic committee here in Dieppe. We have talked about that with Conseiller Dieppe and Thibodeau. One time with Expansion Dieppe, we had mentioned a few streets of names and mention people that are well known in Dieppe. Thank you. As it was mentioned, the city is very active. In September is finished. We know we're quickly headed towards Christmas, and there's events for everyone. We hope people will slow down on the streets, as always. And we're looking forward to see all the future events. You're all going to win your money tonight. Have a great evening.